Chapter 3.
Welcome to the Gothic 1 Remake podcast. We're just outside the old camp in the wilderness, sitting at a campfire, and we're here to talk to you about what happened in August about the Gothic 1 Remake. We had two really big moments for us. First of all, there was the release of the old camp trailer that showed off the atmosphere of the old camp and also the environment of the old camp. And secondly, we had a secret demo with us and traveled to Gamescom to show it off to selected journalists and streamers. And we are here to give you some more details and explanations of what we showed there. I'm Reinhard Police, I'm the director at Alchemia Interactive, and I'm joined by some of my companions that work together with me on the Gothic 1 Remake. Please introduce yourselves.
Okay, well, hello. My name is Joan. I'm the cinematic designer here at Alchemia. Yeah, my role basically is taking care of all the cinematics parts that we will have in the game, also the trailers that we will require for marketing purposes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm Danny Candil. I'm the art director of Gothic Remake.
Hey, my name is Kai Rosenkranz and I'm composer and sound designer. Javi, you want to go next?
Yeah, it's great to be back here, and thank you all for the community for all the feedback they have. Was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my turn. My name is Timur, and I'm a big Gothic fan and the community manager at Alchemia Interactive.
Thanks. So let's first talk about the old camp trailer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What does the old camp mean to you? Joan?
For me, the old camp is the strongest memory that you have from the original game, because it's the first place you land when you start playing. And as the characters had such strong personality and everything, and they are so rough to you, you really feel small, no? There when you play, and I think that everybody remembers with nostalgia those random conversations that the NPCs had, the diggers trying to repair their huts all the time. I don't know, this kind of, especially I think is sound for me. The old camp.
Did someone say sound?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Joanne. It's very nice of you to say that.
Yeah.
So, what does the old camp mean to you, Danny?
So, for me, the old camp is the most important part of the colony. I mean, it's the most recognizable landmark in all of the Gothic experience for me. In terms of visual shape and recognition, it's one of the most tricky parts of the game to work with. It's an intricate labyrinth of huts. It's like it's interesting because it's in a scenario that is being reused. I mean, originally it was a prison, then it became Gomez Castle. For me, this is interesting because it offers me as an artist the possibility of working with a very high level of detail and very high level of narrative, environment that tells a lot of things about the place. And for me, in the far distance, I mean, remember that the tower of the old camp is the first thing you see. So it's one of the most memorable things.
And how did you guys approach the old camp trailer?
We knew since the beginning that we wanted something similar to our last trailer, the trailer for the old mine, which had this camera flying through the environment and just showing the living life there. So we wanted to do the same, showing the living life inside the old camp, but we wanted to take it one step further. That's why we're thinking about new ways to look at this, no? So as we all, or especially me, we love cinema, we were looking for references there. We decided to try a follow camera, no? For the main character, one-shot approach that you can see in movies that came to our mind, like Goodfellas or Birdman, things like that. But we wanted to stick to the Gothic spirit, so we didn't want to go crazy with this. So yeah, that was our first idea, trying to create a one-shot take following a character. We needed to decide the path, which parts of the camp we wanted to show. And yeah, at the end we decided to show the first entrance, then some of the huts where usually the guards asking you for money in the original game, and then snuff, and the food, and then the arena. But yeah, it happened that this path was so long in terms of time. It took like 3-4 minutes for the character just to walk all this area. So the one-shot approach needed to be tweaked, let's say. And at the end we had some cuts during the walk, but I think they work pretty nicely.
How did you transfer the script into an actual visual?
So after we had the idea, we decided to go for the one-take approach. We needed one more thing, and that one thing was a story, a main character. We needed someone to lead this camera, no? So after we had the idea, we create the script that basically is about a digger that stole some money from Bloodwing, one of the wards, and then it got caught by him.
So what happened next?
Next step was to create a storyboard, or what we actually did was to create a animatic or pre-visualization. As we were working with Unreal, we were able to work with Sequencer directly inside the engine, and that allow us to have the animations already done for other purposes, put them together, also using some basic control rig, which allows you to modify these animations in an easy way. With this, we create our animated storyboard, because the old camp environment was already done when the trailer was being created. That allow us to, basically we had everything. We just need to assemble this animatic and show it to the animators. That was everything that we need for this.
So does that mean that everything that we see in the trailer is also going to happen in the game?
So the old camp, as we see it in the old camp trailer, looks exactly the same in the game. The events that happen can also happen like that, but in the game they will happen dynamically. In the trailer, obviously, we set them up like in a sequence after each other, so they happen conveniently whenever we needed them. And the other thing that is totally not like that in the game is the camera sequence, which was specifically set up for the trailer.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
What was your favorite scenes from the trailer?
Even the fight scenes are very cool. My favorite scene is the snuff part with the cauldron and everything, because acting is very funny. We also have a fight at the end, so I think it's super complete.
Okay. You know, when we started discussing the trailer, I mean, we decided to be, to show the original spirit of Gothic, and the feeling of being there in the old camp, how hard it's to be there, how rude everyone is. But for me, the best moment, it's when Bloodwing appears, punching the guy and saying, okay, you need to pay me the debts, Gomez, it's your ore. For me, this is a moment when you see, okay, this is a dangerous place, you should take care of your own life. So I think this, for me, it's the best moment when you can see the characters moving and interacting between two characters in a complicated interaction. So for me, this is one of the most memorable scenes for me in the trailer.
Isn't it hard to create a location with so many similar digger huts?
That's a funny question, because you know what? I mean, Gothic offers us the possibility to work manually in each one of those huts. So yes, we have dozens of huts, and I can assure you that each one of them, it's unique and specific and special. So yeah, it's a challenge, because you should offer something different for each one, but at the same time they should feel integrated. All of them should feel integrated in the same visual language. And yeah, it's a very tricky part of designing the space. They should feel noisy, labyrinthic, intricated. They should feel dirty. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's an interesting opportunity to make this labyrinthic space, but at the same time making it unique.
Speaking about uniqueness, every face is unique, right?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenge of all this game. I mean, we designed it, all of them. I mean, we have been working, this process started like 2 years ago. We started designing manually each one of the characters, and we've been working together with our I can say, I mean, we have been spending so many hours with them that I could say that our brothers and sisters of Gate 21, they are helping us a lot on that. And we are creating, we're aiming to create, I don't know how many characters we have, maybe 600 or something like that.
Yep.
Unique, specific characters. So we can create unique characters and then we can mix them and blend them and creating new characters again. So yeah, we are hoping to hide and super high, trying to make this the experience that the Gothic fans deserve. I mean, in Gothic, I remember playing the original Gothic, every character felt original, right? Unique. So we are aiming for the same.
That's great. Thanks for the insight.
Thank you.
Is there anything you would like to change on the trailer?
Mm-hmm.
If you could go back?
If I had the chance to come back, I think I will try to revise a bit the first part of the trailer. Maybe there's many things happening at the same time, no?
Yeah.
We could try a better way to introduce the trailer, but overall I think it's working good.
Oh yeah, I absolutely think it does. Although, I think we should address the fact that everybody in the trailer speaks Cockney British now. Why is that?
So we decided to go with the rough atmosphere. We take the Cockney accent in English. But not everybody has the same accent. Some people come from different parts of Myrtana, and so they speak differently. Like Diego, who has a very different accent, and not the rough Cockney accent. So I would say, yes, the old camp will sound rough and will sound very Cockney, but overall, it is not even more than 50%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying that.
Alright, since we're sitting here at the campfire, we obviously also need to eat something. I'm going to eat swamp shark poke. What can I serve you?
Thanks, Reinhard.
Yeah, thank you. But actually, Reinhard, you can continue chatting, and I'll take care of taking the orders and preparing the meals.
Thanks.
Timur, what's your choice?
I think my favorite one is Bartolo's roasted scavenger steak with barbecue sauce.
Mhm.
And to drink, I would like the Rice Lord's vodka.
Okay. Rice Lord's vodka, all right. So, Javi, what will you have?
I will go with a roasted scavenger and a bottle of beer.
Yeah, it's going to be the same for me. Danny?
Well, meatbag paella with Rice Lord's special. That would be nice.
One more from the Rice Lord, okay. Joan, your turn.
What about swamp shark grilled filet? S'il vous plaît.
Mais oui, bien sûr. And for drink?
Yeah, and for drink, maybe some vegetable juice that we can find around here.
Okay, working on it.
Now let's talk about the Naris prologue, which was the demo that we showed to press and streamers at Gamescom.
Yeah, actually, I think that needs some more introduction.
Yes.
So what is it?
So the Naris prologue is really a slice of the game that contains almost all elements in a close to final form, and it features not the nameless hero, but a character called Naris. And we chose this because the start of the game is not really something that has a big progression curve, because it expects you to go to the old camp and do some talking there. Our goal was that within 30 minutes you get to see every element of the game, and we could achieve this with this setup.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The first food's ready. Paella was for you, Danny, right?
Exactly, yes.
There you go.
Thanks.
Reinhard, why did we choose Naris for the prologue?
We had obviously several options, because before the nameless hero gets sent into the colony, obviously other characters get sent into the colony. And so was a guy named Naris that later turned his attention to the swamp camp and plays a very important part later down the road in the game.
Cool, thank you. Here's your meal.
Thanks.
That should be everything.
So what was the main goal of the Naris prologue, and how did we start?
Well, I think our main goal was to show all the progress of the game and a little bit how the game has changed from the teaser. So we have a lot of things to show, and one of the more important things that we want to show was the exchange zone at the end, because it changed a lot from the previous version we had done.
Mm-hmm.
This limit over the level, the space, and we built from there. There are a lot of things that we want to show there, and we can talk about all the mechanics or systems. I don't know, which one do you want to start talking about?
I think we should start exactly with that, the exchange zone. So is it a completely new exchange zone?
Well, it's pretty much the same. I think all the players will recognize it. It's the place they imagine, like a new version, but the same place.
Yeah.
We want to build from the original. We have created this exchange zone where, well, in the prologue, Whistler and Diego were there, and we keep most of the rhythm of the level. We keep the abandoned mine entrance, the bridge. Well, I think all the players will recognize it perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have these different areas that we work with, because we have also the top area where, you know, all the players remember there was the goblin there. We have also the tree with the scavengers, and yeah. From our level perspective, we keep the same, and we want to show it and create a story from the beginning of any prisoner when they go inside the colony.
Cool. So what was the process?
Well, from the level perspective, what we create is taking the original, we create a blockout, and we try to keep as much as possible as to the original one, but also we want to improve it, giving these areas more deepness and more flavor about what they are really. And then we talk with the art team when we have this blockout to start working on the decoration, the framing, or more stuff in a visual way. Also, when we are doing this blockout, we also thought about the creatures who are there, because for us it's very important to create this habitat for the creatures, like where they live, where they sleep, where they eat, how is their daily routine also for the creatures, because at the end they are living creatures also. And also one of the important things for this prologue is to create this pacing for the quest. This is also very important for us. When we create a space, we have also in mind the quest that will be there. And yeah, that's our process. We create this, we place the people, we try it, we iterate, we talk with the art team, they create awesome visuals for these spaces, and yeah, it's something like we start from the blockout, and from then we continue with all these things.
Yeah, the cool thing is that when we start preparing the blockout phase, I mean, we meet together with the designers, with the level designers, so we can share the same vision about how this space should be explored, how this space should look and feel. So when they gave the blockouts to us, we are basically working on the same page. So we start our process of, searching for believable environments. I mean, we should transform this blockout into believable environments, into believable constructions. So we'll start, drawing and sketching and searching for references. It's super important to always search for realistic references. And we start playing with materials and trying to create the right sensation, the right mood, the right structures. And sometimes we go a little overboard with details, but in general, the cool thing is that here we work together as a great team. We share the same vision. So basically, when we start decorating, we already know how this should end up looking.
That's great. Thanks for the insight. The changed exchange zone does have a new fireplace, right?
Right. This fire point in the exchange zone that we place there for the players to be able to cook some recipes. There are a lot of creatures in the exchange zone that give you meat, like the scavengers or the mole rats also. But this is one of our bases, because we want the player to get this meat and prepare the recipes, the dishes, and it's a way to survive in the wildlands. Also, we are having a lot of interest in develop better the hunting skills, because it's something that we think is important for the game, because at the end you are in the wildlands, you need to survive, you need to get these materials from the creatures, and for us it's very, very important to give this feeling of adventure of, okay, you have to get prepared with this. And we will use these materials for many kinds of crafting, because we will have not just cooking, we will have more crafting there. Yeah, it's something important for us, and we will get this a little bit more landed, because at the end you can prepare different dishes with different materials.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, the way it is executed in the Naris Prologue, the cooking mechanic, already works very well.
Yes.
Why did we choose the exchange zone for the demo ground?
Using the exchange zone as a scenery for the prologue was a natural choice, because it can very well be separated from the rest of the world and doesn't need to get borders everywhere. It already has very natural borders almost anywhere other than in the mountain path. So we only had to find an explanation of why this path is blocked.
And what is that explanation?
So the setup was that the rock slide happened and rocks were basically blocking the way down. And since there were people kind of like busy with some dealings in there, they are now trapped in this environment.
Yeah, I guess that works.
Joan, you were an important part of that. You contributed the concept of the cinematic camera system.
Yeah, well, I think the challenge for the cinematic dialogues that we wanted to have was especially normally in cinema, when you have a shot-by-shot situation, you also have an editing, right?
Yes.
An editing that has some sense and reasons inside the cinematic rules that we all know. So for us, this was the main challenge because we wanted to have a lot of different cameras, as you can experience in cinema, not just 2 or 3. And at the end, this was difficult to achieve. Even for the game, we are going to have it. But for the demo, we did some tests, and finally, to achieve the quality that we wanted to achieve, we needed to cut the idea, and we just have, I think, 2 or 3 cameras for the demo. But also, when we were doing our research and looking into other third-person RPG games for inspiration, we noticed that maybe the most important thing for a dialogue scene to look cinematic was the light.
Exactly, yes.
We discovered that most of these games add new lights when the dialogue starts, and for us this was key. So that was another thing that we needed to add on top of the cameras in order to achieve super nice cinematic dialogues. So now we are working hard on that. We are designing our systems in order to achieve this. And yeah, I hope you like it in the final game.
Yes, so the Nairis demo contains a slice of everything, and for the first time, also the UI, right?
Right, and for us it's very important to show it, because one of the most important things from Gothic are immersion. We want to keep the immersion very clear. We don't want to have these full screen menus that doesn't allow to continue playing. Instead, checking your inventory is part of the game. You cannot just pause the game and check what you have. It's in the middle of the game. You can do it close to an enemy, but it's on your own risk. And also, well, we give a review to it, but yeah, we have this in mind. Like something very important for the original is like we don't want to have a lot of numbers or text or health bars in the middle of the screens. We want to keep it clean as possible, and it's something that we want to show in this prologue.
That's great. One thing we haven't yet talked about is combat. The Nairis prologue also had like a first iteration of the new combat system.
Yes, exactly.
So how did you get the combat to work?
Yeah, for the combat, which is also something very important for us to show to the audience, was the gesture, the poses for the combat, the stance. I mean, like we want the player to know that at the beginning will be rough. You will not be a master with the sword or even with the pickaxe, because one of the first weapons you can find in the exchange zone is a pickaxe. So for us, it's a challenge to make this, but I think we accomplish it because the player can start fighting. The movement is not feeling as good as you think because you are watching a non-specialist warrior. You are watching just a prisoner in the colony. And also in the prologue, we work to have this combat versus Kirgo, and you can learn combat from him. And he will teach you, okay, this is how you can use a one-hand weapon, and then you evolve as a fighter. And yeah, there is a lot of things because also we have this special moveset for different kind of weapons. It's not the same for a mace, that a sword, an axe, and of course for our two-handed weapons. So we want to show all this evolution for all the kind of weapon. And it's a challenge, but I think it feels really, really good at the hands when you are a beginner with a weapon and you start to know how to fight. Because we want to keep the game as relying in the ability of the player, but also it's a RPG, so you have to learn how to use a weapon.
Yeah, and so many people out there wanted to see the new combat system in action. Why haven't we shown any gameplay to the public audience yet?
So we showed some screenshots of what we presented. They were one-to-one from this prologue. There are some things where we didn't achieve the quality that we wanted to achieve, or contain some bugs or unpolished things, and we don't want to overshadow the public opinion by that. So we chose to not release any footage to the public. But we'll have later down the road a real gameplay reveal where people get to see unedited gameplay of the Gothic 1 remake.
So Reinhard, what is going to happen with the Naira's prologue?
So we haven't really decided what will happen with the Naira's prologue. We have this done now. We're working on that there's some things will be improved because we improved them for the game anyways. There are several options. One could be a public release, and one could actually be, well, as a kind of like a special data sample that is living in the game and can be accessed somehow.
Okay, you're making a big secret out of it.
Yeah, it's cool, and I don't like to make big promises. You know me.
Fair enough. Better this way than the other way around.
Yeah. Over the history of the Gothic franchise, we know how big promises end, right?
Oh, yeah.
Very true. All right, so almost half an hour. What else do we have to talk about?
I have some questions from our community.
Oh, yeah, great.
Let's go through some of them.
Okay, sounds good.
So, the question with the most upvotes was from a user with the nickname Shaolin. Will the game have mod support for the modding community to create them easily and for community content to be added over the years? And will there be a Marvin mode?
So mod support is actually something really important to us. We understand there's a big community creating mods since many years. In fact, around 20 years ago, I used to create my own mods for Gothic. But we have some limitation to fight with. We work with Unreal Engine, and Unreal Engine is not the best engine for modding. But anyways, we found a pretty cool way where we can expose something like a scripting language to players, and they can just toy around with that. About the Marvin mode, yeah, I mean, there are some sort of debug commands. We'll see.
Yeah, thank you, Shaolin, for your question. And the second question is from a very active Discord member, Asnen. And the question is, what motivated the significant changes in the appearance of monsters in the Gothic remake in comparison to the original in terms of your art direction choices? Asnen, thank you for your question. Oh, maybe this question is for you, Dani.
Well, that's a tricky question, and of course there is not a simple answer to that. But when you are redesigning creatures, monsters that were designed more than 20 years ago, you are facing some aesthetic decisions. Technical limitations that maybe were valid then, but maybe they can feel a little outdated now. This is one part of the answer, the evolution of the aesthetics and technique, the way we can render creatures now technically and artistically that wasn't possible back then gives you the opportunity to go deep into the original designs and make them evolve and go in the extra mile. But having said that, we designed the creatures trying to find a sweet spot between three main vectors. One, the principles of evolutionary biology, especially thinking in the adaptations. By adaptations, I mean those features that have evolved in a species over time in response to specific environmental pressures that provide some functional advantage for them. Two, adding to that mix a controlled amount of fantasy, so essentially the creatures should feel believable. Believable inside the world of Gothic that, in essence, it's a dark medieval tale. And three, those two previous vectors should go toe-to-toe with the original idea behind the original designs. So we can change a little the look of a creature, but once you see it moving and behaving in the world, we are confident you will recognize it immediately.
Thanks, Danny. So the question number 3 is from Jason. How much do you plan to expand the plot on the Nameless One's 4 friends, Diego, Milton, Gorn, and Lester? For example, their past, their own side quests, greater involvement in the story.
That's a really good question. So for us, the 4 friends is some of the lasting moments of the Gothic series, I think. But in fact, it didn't receive such a proper introduction. So this is definitely something that we want to provide something better and a good moment where all 4 of them with the hero are together and having to solve something. And besides that, yes, there will be a more in-depth background stories for those 4 friends.
Thanks, Reinhard, and thanks, Jason, for your question. And the last question is from user Xardosh. Do we have a way to customize the nameless hero, like a head shave or tattoos, for example, after joining the sect camp?
I think I can answer this one.
Xardosh, thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank you. So this one is very easy to answer because it's a no. No, there's no such thing as customization for the nameless hero planned.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for sending your questions. We will try to answer the rest of them in later episodes.
Okay, let's wrap it up. That's it. Thanks for joining us on this campfire chat. We hope we gave you some additional insights into how we created the Nyrus prologue and the old camp trailer. We look forward to have you on the next regular episode of the Gothic 1 Remake podcast and bring you some more news about Gothic.